Hello all, it's the old geek, and hopefully I've got my camera working okay for this recording because gave me a bit of jip last time when I attempted to record me playing a bit of Underworld. I have in front of me on my screen here a little bit of history. I've said a few times on my videos I've never really had a chance to take a look at Dragon magazine, and I know it is seen by many people being at the cornerstone of the hobby. Um, First appeared in 1976, I believe. I was born in late 71, so I'd have been 4. But up on screen now, I have The Dragon, Volume 1, Number 1. It just says June on it. I think it's June 1976. But we'll confirm that because I'm going to have a little bit of read through and find out what's in it and find out what all the fuss was about. Now, bear in mind, this was the first ever issue. This was when OD&D was the thing. The first AD&D book was the Monster Manual, published in 1977, and it still used OD&D stats. We didn't see AD&D stats until 1978 Player's Handbook, 1979 Dungeon Master's Guide. So the original Monster Manual was a bit of a curious hybrid. So this is very much, even before that, it's OD&D times, the old white box, those little beige books. Now we can see from the cover that this is very early. This is very low production quality. It almost looks as though the dragon on the cover has been coloured in with felt tip pens. Looks like something I might have coloured in when I was about 10 years old, with some splodges in the background and a bit of a dodgy colour for the text. It's very hard to read exactly what it says. Fritz Lieber, A Conversation with Fafhrd and the Mouser, Languages in D&D by Lee Gold, Part 1 of a new fantasy novel, The Gnome Cache. $1.50. About £1.20 in modern money. Quite a lot for a magazine, I think, mid-70s. Let's find out. Let's find out what's in there. Let's have a little bit of a read through, see what it had to offer. Start off with an advert. In the year 2941, Third Age, 5 armies came together. Oh, this is the Battle of the 5 Armies from The Hobbit. £5 for a game. Now you can determine the outcome of this fantastic battle. It was determined. Tolkien determined it. Yes, the good guys kicked ass with the help of the... Yes. 150 unit counters in multiple colours. Ziploc bags. I remember Steve Jackson Games using those for Car Wars. Available July the 1st. TSR Hobbies. The Dragon Rumbles. Some monochrome artwork. I think that's better than the cover art, that dragon at the top. How do we get into this and what we're going to do now we're here? Okay, it's an introduction. I'm not going to read through everything. It's just an idea of this video to see what exactly was in there. This issue marks a major step for TSR Hobbies Incorporated. With it, we have bid farewell to the safe, secure world of the house organ and have entered the arena of competitive magazine publishing. If I'd have looked at this magazine back in the mid-70s, that crude cover, dodgy typeface, I don't remember back then. It was 4.5, maybe 4 3/4 when this came out. But I remember magazines being a little bit more professional looking, so we know it got better. We are soliciting advertisers and giving notice to the rest of the pack that we've arrived with a vengeance, with a mission to fulfill. Oh yes, TSR did have Arrive with a vengeance. Want to dominate role-playing games throughout the late 70s and early 80s. Okay, so they talk about the experience they've had producing Strategic Review, a magazine before this. And published a statement, June 1976. So there we go, June 1976. I would have been 4 years and 7. Editor Tim Kask. Staff artist, Dave Sutherland. Familiar name. Cover by Bill Hannon. So I'm guessing the black and white drawings will be Dave Sutherland's and that splodgy cover, Bill Hannon. Okay, we start off with Fritz Lieber, however you want to pronounce his name, and quite a scalp for a first issue, because I remember reading his books in the early 80s, and I loved Lankmar books. I read a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them. Years since I've sat down and read. I miss it. Get a little country cottage. Sit in silence. I could read again. Sadly, living in a city, too many distractions. But I'm not going to read through it all. But it looks like it's an interview. Yeah. Into the Cauldron. Tim Cass. So this is. So Tim Cask gets to talk about anything not TSR related. Okay, well, doesn't look like there's anything of any interest in there. More adverts. Diplomacy. Magazine for diplomacy. Subscription, £4 a year. $4 a year. I played a lot of diplomacy in my team. It broke friendship, created friendship. A lot of. Could never get anyone to play Italy though. We always had 5 or 6 players. We never managed to get 7 players. Never got anyone to play Italy. Italy was always neutral when we played with 6 players. Made life a lot easier. France. Put France in a very strong position, having no threat from Italy. Yeah, right. France often won games of diplomacy. France, Turkey tended to do well. Russia tended to start okay and then fall away. And England just sort of pottered along and usually allied with France and ended up helping France win. Germany and Austria-Hungary always stuffed in the middle. Okay. I have no idea what Cytex 76 is. Oh, looks like they're having a bit of an argument. Right. Yeah, bit of nerd rage by the looks of things. UPS went on strike. We've had a Royal Mail strike here recently. Nothing really changes. Battle of the Five Armies in miniature. Okay, so I'm guessing this is yeah, we've already seen the advert for Battle of the Five Armies, so it's talking about that. Of course, D&D came from miniature wargaming, chainmail. So, Dirt by Jake. Well, Omar, what did you think of the trip from SR to the Dragon? No idea what SR is. It was a moving experience. Same old dungeon, though. Same wall, same ceiling, same rats, same bugs. By the way, did you remember to bring it? I've got it right here. Okay. So next issue, we'll learn out what it is. How to use non-prime requisite character attribute by Wesley D. Ives. Whenever a player performs a non-ordinary task or attempts to do so, the referee is usually in a quandary. Now to determine fairly whether the character can perform the attempted action. Normally the referee gives consideration to the player's attributes and more or less wings it. Yes. 2023 now, and that's how I tend to do it. Attempting to be fair, usually giving the player a percentage chance. No, roll a d20 or 3d6. You want a bell curve, use 3d6 if you want it to be linear, more swingy. Use a d20, roll equal to or lower than the ability score. Right, so this looks like an overcomplicated way of doing skill checks based on stats. Converting them to percentages. See how this works. Example, consider Grod the fighter. His scores are strength 17, int 9, wisdom 5. Oh, con and dex are in the other order, they weren't. Con 14, dex 14, charisma 12. Yeah, he's quite a strong fighter. Not very wise, he'll probably get himself hacked to bits early on, but at least he can hit hard. Though, I can't remember how the bonuses went in D&D. I think he's got a bonus for strength, but nothing else there. Right, so he's been attacked by a pair of bugbears. Grod wants 3 of his minions to hold off the bugbears while Grod rolls away the boulder blocking the exit. Well, depending on the size of the boulder, I'd ask for an open doors check or a bend bars lift gates check. Then obviously those tables were created in a couple of years after this magazine. Or you could do a strength check. D20 equal to or lower than strength. He's got a good chance of succeeding. All depends. So okay, so he does a charisma check to see if his minions will fight. 22 added to Grod's charisma. Generate a number from 1 to 100 and consult the table below. So you roll, and then you roll dice. Ah, right. Grod rolls an 8-sided dice. Scoring a 7. There's a 7 times 12 chance. Where's the 12? Yeah, comes from charisma. 84% chance the minion. Right, okay. So you roll percentile dice to see which dice you roll. You multiply it by the stat, and that gives you a percentage chance. I suppose it works. It's a bit long-winded. But yeah, okay. Okay. Oh, well. Oh, they did have extraordinary strength back in OD&D day. Right. All looks a little bit over complicated for something quite simple, but it seems to work. You want to use it? Lots of modifiers. Okay. No, I'll throw that out like I throw most overcomplicated things out. Just keep it simple, stupid. Magic and science, are they compatible in D&D? I know D&D has sci-fi roots, and of course S3, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, brought sci-fi in, and I know they drew from authors who've got sci-fi elements, but I'm in the nerdy camp where I prefer things to be kept separate, and magic and science, well, I'd go as far as reactions of elements and a magic user doing experimentation to create things that go boom and fizz and whatever, and potion brewing and that sort of stuff. But beyond that, I'm not really interested in bringing science into D&D. Keep it magical. And then they're talking about artificers here. I don't remember seeing those in early versions. Maybe, yeah. Well, of course, Dragon added lots of extra classes, didn't it? So maybe they added an artificer. A lightning bolt wand is just a static electricity generator. You know what? I know people who would have said that sort of thing at the table. I don't find them very interesting. To be honest, I'm sorry, Mr. James N. Ward. If you, I know you've got a glorious history in the game. I know you were involved in all manner of great books afterwards, and you were involved in deities and demigods. Yes, you were. See on the spine of my book up there, you were involved in deities and demigods. But he says here, many times when discussing rules with other judges and players, I've heard he's heard statements like magic and its use denies science its uses. Oh, he says he himself usually loudly clamours that a lightning bolt wand is a static electricity generator. No. Not interested in that at all. It's a lightning bolt wand. It goes pizzazz. Well, 6d6, 8d6, however many d6 the lightning bolt wand. So I think that's the thing I'd really be interested in. I do see from these options here, largest sphere, middle sphere, and the things in there aren't scientific. So is he just making a wand that shoots out spheres? Oh no, it's a. Oh yeah, I'm darting backwards and forwards here. This is the problem I have when I read fiction. I sort of read bits and come back, and my attention gets dragged away. And the three powerful devices used all the time by the artificers. Right, he's creating the artificers, and these are their weapons. Okay, and they're spheres. I wonder if this is where prismatic sphere, the idea of prismatic sphere and prismatic spray came from. Perhaps. Because some of the options appear to be in there. Pardon me. Okay, anyway. I might read that. Continue on page 2. I might read that at another time. It's too long to go. I have just spent far too long on it. Languages. Or could you repeat that in Old Wormish? By Lee Gold, editor of Alarums and Excursions, the D&D Amateur Press Association. I know that name. It's pretty sure the magazine they produced is the first ever to use the abbreviation THACO. So it has a place in history. The rules lay down that each species has its own language, except for humans, most of which can speak common, as can 20% of the non-humans as an extra tongue. In addition, each alignment has its own language, known to all members and recognisable as such by all non-members. Alignment languages, I always treat sort of inflections. If you want to speak in your alignment tongue, you're effectively speaking common. You're dropping little hints, little sort of colloquialisms in there to drop an idea of the way you lean. I find that a more organic way of thinking about alignment tongues. Creatures may speak several languages either by virtue of their natural intelligence or by magic. Okay? That's an elf with intelligence 18 speaks 6 natural languages. Orc, hobgoblin, gnoll, elf, common, and his alignment. Plus 8 acquired ones. They changed that for AD&D, didn't they? Changed that for AD&D. An elf speaking 14 languages is a bit extreme. Greatest polyglots today, probably 14 languages fluently. Well, the human intelligence of 3 can speak only common and his alignment tongue, and probably has a low vocabulary in both. Yeah. I've heard people say people with intelligence 3 can't speak. No, they just speak a bit. No, I'm not the brightest. What was it you asked me? I never went to school. I can't. What did you say your name was again? That's intelligence 3 or 4. Okay, so it goes into rules for making languages a bit more complicated. Okay, I'm going to skip straight through this. It's giving you like a percentage chance of some form of communication between people who speak different languages. I like people to sort of role play that out and point and grunt. I think that's more fun. Look at all those conventions. Look at all those conventions. California, Missouri, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, and MD, Maryland, Wisconsin. I know WI is Wisconsin. Dotted all over America. Sound like I know my American geography there. Probably know my American geography better than most Americans know European geography. But it's not saying much. Over $450 in prizes at Gen Con. That was a lot of money in the 70s. Trophies, ribbons, plaques, cups. 44 tournaments and seminars. Oh, how that compares to nowadays. Never been to Gen Con, probably never will. I've been to the UK games. this year, hopefully. Hopefully meet up with some people from my Discord. Yes. You know? Fight in the Skies Society. Those with a racing spirit in their blood, Saturday evening will feature the giant 4 hours of Le Mans simulation. Oh yes, I like a bit of racing. This large-scale race will be an enlarged and expanded version of Avalon Hill's classic Le Mans game. 4 hours? I've played Car Wars quite a lot, and we have attempted to do races in Car Wars. It takes a lot more than 4 hours, and that's to do the first few hundred yards of the starting straight, and most cars don't make it through the first corner. And those that complete a first lap, maybe one or two, if there's 6 on the grid, tend to go through all the carnage on the start-finish line and blow up themselves. That's Car Wars. Marvellous fun. See you there. Well, it was 47 years ago. Blimey. Magic and Science continues. Oh, just a little bit from the previous page. Good old TSR editing. No, I don't particularly want to put science in D&D. I don't like the artificer sort of classes. Make little clockwork toys. It takes me out of the verisimilitude. For me, D&D is 14th, 15th century Europe, and I don't think artificer. Now you might have the odd siege engine, cannons going boom, but accurate hand gunnery didn't exist. It was the very early days of them lining up hand cannoneers, and just every 30 seconds or so, a big volley, and that would be effective because it would be a mass area, but they weren't accurate. So, into guns. Artificers, with their little sort of toys and things that go pizzazz and whatever, leave them making the magic items to the. Okay, we have a. This looks like a piece of fiction, The Search for the Forbidden Chamber by Jake Jacquet. And a little bit of art at the bottom. I'll probably read that at another time. I wonder if it's better than people's backstories are nowadays. Mid-70s. Is this foretelling the sort of things that go on in the world at the moment? Greyhawk Construction Company. Hell's bells, it's a recyclosaurus. Then we've got the rest of the fiction. Advert for Gen Con by the looks of things. Oh, my screen's just jumped. The rest of the article on the Five Armies game. Oh, lovely! It's all zoomed out, so you can't read it very easily. It's far too small for my my eyesight. This is more stuff about the Five Armies game. More wargaming. I'm not against wargaming. I have tried playing little bits and pieces of it from time to time, but only ever little bits and pieces. I used to play Warhammer with a friend of mine from school. Didn't play very often, and we'd set it all up on his table. And I don't know if he was cheating. I might just because he's the only one who knew the rules. But I got splattered every time. I always seemed to get units that couldn't hurt his, and his would make mine go all over the table. Yeah, he was probably cheating. He was a bit of a power gamer. Right, we are still going through the wargaming stuff, which really isn't my thing. Okay. Oh, I have heard about this. Page 19 of 32. Creature features. This artwork will be familiar to AD&D types. The boulette. I will not call it a boulet because French E-double-T-E will never be pronounced A. Don't care what Mr. Cask says. It's a bullet, otherwise known as the land shark. I'm guessing this is the first ever appearance of this iconic monster that was based on a children's toy. Marvellous. Marvellous. Now the stats compare. I know the bullet had different armour classes depending on where you attacked it, so yeah, things will have changed. Of course, these stats are for OD&D. It looks nasty though. Mouth does 4d12 damage. Feet 3d6. Didn't adventurers not get many hit points in OD&D? That would be savage. Oh, here's the bit. The bullet, pronounced boulet, no it's not, has only 2 semi-vulnerable spots. The eyes are AC 4, but very small compared to the overall bulk of the monster. And here we go, the under the crest AC 6, so it's in the text rather than the stats over. I do like these very simple. Mapping the dungeons. Well, okay, this appears to be people looking for games. New DM listing. Yeah, people looking for games. You might recognise a name. I recognise a name in there that went on to do very bright things in the gaming world. Have a look. Oh. It's a game that play. Hints for D&D hints for D&D judges. Part 2 Wilderness. That was part 1. Was part 1 the bit about stature? Probably one of the main things that keeps D&D judges from turning their games from a good dungeon into exciting campaigns, a lack of a wilderness area. The game was originally, a dungeon crawl. As far as I know, expert being added wilderness around 19. Wasn't. There were bits and pieces about overland travel in the first edition Dungeon Master Guide. Nothing massive though. But so this is the first mention in print wilderness in D&D. I don't know. I'm not going to read the whole article. Be here forever. Right. It's an idea of clues, an idea of colours and symbols you can use when mapping. Very good. I wonder how these have stuck. Yeah. So most of those still stand today, apart from the symbols at the bottom. Squares are still used for towns. We have Barbarian. Very Conan-esque. Advert. Der Kriegsspielers Fellowship. Fantastic. Right. Yes, it's an advert. Looks like an advert for a miniatures company reviewing at a wargame show. $2 for a catalogue. And that catalogue would be worth a bit nowadays. Mighty Magic Miscellaneous. Illusionist. Is this the creation of the illusionist class? Awesome if it is. So it's the idea you go from level 1 to 10 as a magic user and then become an illusionist. I don't know. I don't know enough about OD&D to know whether this is just an advancement of the illusionist or whether the illusionist existed in a supplement beforehand. It's a class I like that I feel is heavily underplayed. Royal Armies, the Hyborian Age edition. Must be referring to a game that I know nothing about. Right. Is it a a war game. Looks like it. Looks like it's a war. Before my time. Adventures in Fantasy. Okay. Yeah, and blast him, whiz, heh heh. Okay. A little bit of artwork that I could probably have drawn when I was about 12 years old. Sorry to the artist. It's really not. It's going to be a professional magazine. You need better art than I'm afraid. Oh, I see. It continues on the next page. Right. Okay. So the wizard has blasted him, and he's fine. And it looks like his mates have turned into snakes. What's your dexterity again, Wiz? So the wizard's in trouble. He's going to get battered. Right. He's made his saving throw. The guy who got blasted. That's reflected. All-star diplomacy game to be in Little Wars. Little Wars, our sister publication, different magazine. I remember Play by Mail game. Prismatic Spray, there it is. Hobbits and Thieves in Dungeon. This is referring to the Dungeon board game. Never played it, I'm afraid. So they're talking about Hobbits and Thieves, guessing like having stealthy characters to use in that. Press release. Is this advert of some sort? Classic Warfare. Yeah, more miniature gaming. Understand that. Citadel, is that Citadel Miniatures? Oh no, it's a game called The Citadel. White Bear and Red Moon. Oh, people are, okay, so this section is press releases, people talking about new games that are coming out, most of which appear to be board game related, fantasy board game simulation. Fair enough, advertise a new game. It's with great pleasure. My teeth in. It is with great pleasure that we present the first instalment of a great new fantasy novel. Only fitting that it debut in this, our first issue. Join us, if you will, on the search for the Gnome Cache, Garrison Earn. It's a bit of reading for me to do later. There we go. Okay. That 3 pages. D&D hints. Oh, this is adverts. 3 Kindred of the Eldar by Larry Smith. Where's that from? So you roll dice. What game's that for? It doesn't say. Roll dice to see what type of elf you are. Sylvan, Sindar, Noldor. Different rules for them. Doesn't say which game by the looks of things. For D&D? Okay. Yeah, maybe an adjustment to the D&D game elves. Fair enough. Advertising Gen Con 9, where the hosts are preparing for 3 full days of gaming. Special guest, Fritz Lieber. How many people attended these Gen Con back in those? Who wonder? Nothing about the pricing there. I didn't notice that. Nothing about how much it costs to go to Gen Con. I think they put that in, given that this magazine was published in June 1976, unless it was already out. Watch for news of the super event planned for the nation's oldest wargaming convention when it celebrates its 10th birthday. To be Gen Con 9, The 10th birthday will be, yeah. So started in 1967. If it's Gen Con 9, 67 was the first one. 1968. Right. And in the July Little Wars, we have all that sort of stuff. In the next issue of The Dragon, Part 2 of the Gnome Cache, the conclusion, Search of the Forbidden Chamber, Monk versus Monk, Combat in Arena Promotion. Monk rules, yes, where you have to fight the holder of the current belt, in judo terms, to move up. I had to do that in judo. We had to beat people of the same level as yourself. And beat them all properly, one after the other. Brutal. And a new Swords and Sorcery novelette by Gardner Fox. And that is it. That is the entirety of the issue. Obviously, a lot of it seems to refer to OD&D, which would have been the game of the time, and all the miniature gaming stuff. There's not really a lot in there for the likes of me, for someone who came from AD&D and basic D&D in the early 80s. But it's nice to look back on how things were done and where things first appeared. So it's interesting to get that sort of perspective of how the game was, and the rules were coming through organically through articles in a magazine. Of course, Unearthed Arcana in 1985 was essentially a collection of Dragon magazine articles, and they would have used magazines like that to just test the water when it comes to new rules, new ideas. Always interesting to see, but it is scrappy and messy. The presentation's a bit all over the place. You've got to dot backwards and forwards to find sections of articles. The artwork is it's early days, very early days. Let's see what number 2 looks like, and it'd be nice to see how everything starts to look more professional as time goes on, and familiar names pop up. We've had Cask, had Ward, had Jacques, Gygax was mentioned again, and seeing the author Fritz Lieber there. These are names that are part of my youth. Cask not so much, because I know about him now, but I don't remember his name being bandied around in the books and the modules that I bought typically in the early 80s. But obviously, of course, if he was only involved in magazine editing more than anything, magazine articles, then I won't have heard his name. You guys in America would have heard about him a lot more. But yeah, that's been interesting. Thank you to the person who sent me the PDF of this. I will poke and prod my way through the series. Let's see what develops. Hope you've enjoyed this little dig into the past. I've been the Old Geek. See ya.